So let's take our summer scene and transform it into a fall version. So first I'm gonna hide my building, my furniture, my forest in the background, and the trees. Alright. So let's unfreeze all and start by changing our ground texture. So right now it has this mix of sand and green grass, and I want to change that green grass to something more appropriate, like this texture here, which is basically half dead, half alive grass with some dead leaves in it. Okay, let's check how it looks. It looks fine, and let's leave it. Alright, so that's the ground, and now we're also going to modify our grass materials. So basically we want to make them more desaturated, more brownish. So like that, and change the gradient as well. So for example, I want a larger brown area. And make it darker overall. Okay, maybe like that. And let's make this one darker as well. Okay. And our medium grass. Okay, I'm gonna shift the hue somewhere over here. And maybe copy the gradient from short grass. Alright, let's check and see how it looks. And the color seems alright, I think. Okay, so that's good. I'm also gonna make the water slightly different. I'm gonna make it more foggy by increasing the fog multiplier to maybe 0.012 or 15. Just to make it a bit darker, to give a darker overall look to the scene. Okay, good. All right, now let's transform the reeds. I'm gonna unhide them. And let's select that object. And I'm just gonna isolate it. Right, so this is how they look right now. Let's make them a bit longer and a bit less dense. Okay, and of course the materials should be slightly different as well. let's set it at 3 multi-sub-objects, and for one of them we're going to use this brown color. And change those green colors a bit to something like, maybe like this. All right, let's see how that looks. Okay, not so bad. Maybe some of those greens are a bit too strong. Let's try again. Okay, good. And I also want to change my models a bit, so I'm going to unhide my reads models. And go to them. Okay. So let's break some of them down like this. And just bend them over. Let's check how it looks. I think it's fine. Okay, so let's unhide all and see how the reeds look together with water and grass. Okay. And I think the grass is a bit too uniform, so I'm gonna select my okay, where is it? Let's unfreeze all. I'm going to select my forest grass clumps, and I'm going to make it a different color. Okay, so here's the material. Let's drag and drop it here. And I'm going to change it up a bit. And by making the diffuse sort of like straw. And let's get rid of that gradient and use this one instead. Right, like that. Now let's copy that material right here and see how that looks. So now those clumps should be the straw colored material. Okay, that's good. Maybe let's make it a bit lighter. Okay. And I'm gonna unhide my... Okay, so what's it called for 002? Okay, sorry. So let's make a test and see how it looks now. Okay, the clumps are a bit weird right now, so their positions are a bit weird, so maybe they are a bit too bright. I'm gonna make them a bit darker. And I'm gonna select that forest object and maybe change it from groups to scattered. Let's see how it looks. Okay. Let's see them together again. I think that's a bit better. Alright, so that's the ground and the grass, and now we just have to fix those trees. Okay, so even though we could just recolor our trees using the forest color map and just call it done, I want to use a different approach and I want to change my originals a bit. I want to make them more natural. So for example, I want to make the leaves a little less dense. Okay, so let's reduce the leaf density. So in this case they are determined by the stem leaves object here, so let's reduce the density. Okay. So that's better. All right. So this seems fine. And now we're going to use vertex colors. to make some interesting coloration for these trees. So I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so to see the vertex colors, you have to go to Object Properties and turn on the vertex channel display. Alright, so these are the colors right now. And we're going to use these vertex colors to create a mask for coloring the leaves. So let's hide the leaves for now, and I'm going to show you how you can use it. Okay, so first of all, let's color the trunk. You can do it here in the mesh builders. Just click on the vertex color button, and let's color it along the path. Okay, so it starts at black and goes up to white. And I want to slightly distort that coloring pattern to bring the blacks up a bit. So something like that. Alright, now we're going to go to branches 0, 1 and do the same thing. Well, not exactly. We're going to go down here and use this vertex color inherit from parent. Turn that on. And you can see it takes on the color from the parent or from the trunk. And if you turn on coloring along path, it also becomes brighter as it approaches the end of these branches. Okay. And we can blend these two together. For example, I'm gonna give it a gradient. And we can blend them together. You can even use some blending modes like these. Okay. So try for some interesting effects. Okay, like this. Now the branch is 0, 2. Let's inherit from parent. And finally, the stems for the leaves. Okay, I'm also going to inherit from parent and just color the elements in the color of the parent. So now we have this interesting result here. And once we turn on the leaves, and make them get their color from the parent, you can see the vertex colors like these. And if you play around with those gradients and those blending modes, you can get all sorts of coloring effects. And the idea is that you can use this mask. So for example, I'm going to go to my leaves material and create a mix in the diffuse slot. And you can use this vertex color map to use it as a mask. So for example, I want some red leaves. And maybe some yellow leaves. Okay, and we can get a very nice effect since they are blended, just as you can see in the viewport when you render. You get some red leaves and some yellow leaves depending on the vertex color. And this is much more interesting than just assigning a random color for all the leaves or just using a color for all the object, for the whole object. So we play around with this and you can get some interesting stuff going on. So for example, in this case we have these yellow leaves on top and more red leaves down here on the bottom. And it actually looks quite nice. Right, so that's the vertex color for this tree. And now I'm going to do something very similar for these two others. And then let's go back to our original scene. So here we are back in our scene, and I'm going to show you how those vertex colored trees work. So let's unhide the forest. I'm going to hide the bushes for now and just leave the trees. Okay, and let's replace those trees with the ones we modified with vertex colors. And I'm just gonna delete the old versions. Okay, so let's take them here and move them out of the way. And this is what we're gonna work with. Right, so okay, I'm gonna hide the reeds as well. And let's select our forest trees object. Okay, and for the starters, I'm gonna just use one of the poplar trees. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Now let's create a material for it. So I'm going to take my original poplar material and I'm going to modify it slightly. I'm going to reduce the translucency a bit, change the reflections to something a bit weaker and desaturated. And finally, we're going to start with a fresh forest color. I'll map in the diffuse slot. Okay, so for the default color, we're going to use a mix map with vertex color map as the mix amount. So I'm just going to set up some very different colors so you can see the effect. Okay, so something like this. And I'm going to drag and drop it in my forest material. Okay, and when you render, you can see you have this nice effect. The color is taken from the vertex color mask and it becomes red as it goes up and is blue on the bottom. And this looks a bit more natural than if the whole tree had the same color or just some random variations. Okay, so let's switch those colors to something more realistic. For example, something red on the bottom and maybe something yellow on the top. Okay, so that's quite nice. It looks quite good already, but it's a bit too uniform. And we can add some color changes to it by using the forest color map. So let's go one level up and override this gradient right here. And I want to randomize it a bit. So for example, let's set the strength from 0 to maybe 50. I don't want to override the vertex color map completely. So let's set the maximum at 50. And let's say we want some colors to be a bit more greenish and some to be a bit more yellow. Okay, and maybe increase the variation so it's affecting the elements as well. Right, so I'm gonna leave the blending mode as color, and let's see how it looks right now. Okay, you can see some slight variation in color right now. So some greens, some reds. It looks much more natural than before, but it still keeps the original coloring from the vertex color map. Okay, so I think this material looks quite nice. So let's add the rest of the trees. Okay, sorry. I'm just gonna add them by name. All right. And let's make a slightly different material by copying this original. For example, for the medium-sized trees, I want the vertex colors to be, let's say, green to yellow. So let's drag and drop that on our poplar medium. Maybe add some slight red variation. Okay. So for the other large poplars, I'm gonna use my first poplar material, and for the small trees, I'm gonna use the second one as well. And let's see how that looks. Okay, so those greens are a bit too strong, I think. Maybe let's make them a bit more yellow and a bit darker. Okay, let's retry. I think that's looking quite nice. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide the bushes. Right, so let's select them. And let's modify the material a bit. So let's leave some of the bushes greener. And actually, since they do not use vertex colors, we can just clear that and use a regular diffuse color. Okay, maybe a couple variations. Like this. And give them color from green to slightly yellow. Right, let's see how it looks. That's quite nice, and maybe let's add some brighter bushes as well. So let's say I'm gonna make a copy and bushes yellow. And for this one, I'm gonna change my diffuse color to something lighter. Okay, maybe some browns and some yellows like these. Okay, now let's say we're going to use it for bush 2. bush 4. Okay, let's see how it looks now. Too bright. Too bright, so let's go in and change the colors a bit. Alright, a bit better. Let's increase the random strength to 100. And try again. Okay, now, so now the bushes, I think, look okay. Maybe a bit too desaturated. Okay, let's try that. I think that's gonna be fine. Right, so now we have our trees, our bushes, our grass. And all that's left are these linden trees we had in the foreground. So let's unhide them. And I'm gonna isolate the selection and turn off the box display. Okay. Just gonna make a quick save. And let's play with the vertex colors here as well. And basically it's the same thing. Okay, I'm going to turn off the meta meshes for now, since they take so long to calculate. Alright. The preview is getting in the way. It's not appearing as white color, it's appearing as the texture. So turn that off. And just color the branches a bit. Okay. Just take those colors from parent. And finally, color the leaves as well. I get two meshes for leaves, so I colored the wrong one. Sorry about that. Okay. So we got something like this. I think this looks quite good. And the two other trees can stay as they are right now. Okay, so here is the material. Again, I'm gonna make the translucency a bit weaker. And I know the linden trees usually don't get red colors, but I think some red would look nice in the scene. So I'm actually gonna just use that. So mix map into diffuse slot, vertex color as the mix. And just let's mix some greens with some reds. Alright, let's see how it looks. Looks nice. Maybe let's make the green a bit brighter. Okay. It's nice, and make a copy of the material for the other two trees. And I'm just gonna use a regular color for them. Maybe let's make it more red. Okay. So let's unhide all and see how it looks. Okay, so that's the fall scene. And I just want to show you one more thing before we finish up. And that's again about the vertex colors. For example, I'm gonna take this medium 3 over here. And if you do not have a Forest Pro object, if you just have a regular tree model, it doesn't mean you can't use the vertex colors for coloring the leaves. Let's say I'm gonna convert it to editable mesh. And you can just as easily use the vertex paint modifier to color in some areas you want. So for example, let's say we want to fill it with black for starters. And then using the brush tool, increase the size a bit. Using the brush tool, you can paint in your mask. Okay, so white color. It can be a bit slow with very high poly objects. Just take your time and color in some areas you want. Okay, let's look at it from the camera view. Let's say we like it that way, and let's render and see how it looks. As you can see, you can color non-grow effects objects as well. Okay, so that's it for the fall scene.